Oh, hi friends, happy Thanksgiving week. Great to have you here. Hey, in a moment I want to continue with some keys about learning to hear God's voice and learning to separate what I would call the noise from the signal, the noise signal ratio problem. How to increase the signal, God's voice, and decrease the noise, you, the world, Satan, your fears, your doubts, your unbelief, all the chatter. Really important thing. And we'll jump into that in just a quick moment. Let me take 30 seconds. What? You can time me? No. I'll give you some quick updates. Firstly, I'm working on revamping my email newsletter at the moment. If you're not currently getting my email newsletter, there should be a link below, and I'd really encourage you to subscribe for that. Probably the best way of keeping in touch with me. Second, do check out my website. Again, link below. Got too many things to announce here, but they're all on there. And lastly, I have a new book that is out this week. It is called Alive. It is all about living in and letting the resurrection life of Jesus. We have it in our spirit. We all know that, but how to experience this in your soul and in your body. Cool. I have a Black Friday offer on. Again, links below for that, and I know it will bless you. So, we have been looking in, yesterday I was in 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, the wedding crashes chapter. And, it's funny, there are lots of churches who hate spiritual gifts and hence ignore the Bible and yet love this chapter. And I sort of hate to break it to them. This chapter is all about spiritual gifts. People tend to read this in a very, love is patient, love is kind. But what Paul's actually saying in this chapter is if I speak in tongues and have not love, it benefits me nothing. If I can prophesy but have not love, it benefits me nothing. If I have faith to move mountains but have not love, it benefits me nothing. Paul isn't saying don't speak in tongues. He's saying do it with a heart overflowing in love. He's not saying don't prophesy. He's saying prophesy, but do it from a place of love. Literally, the very page you look at here, if you turn the page anyway, he says, pursue loves, desire spiritual gifts, and especially that you may prophesy. Literally, one page later, Paul says, I want you all to prophesy. Paul isn't saying don't move mountains. He's saying don't move mountains because you think you demand, because you think you're so great. Move mountains out of a heart of love and compassion for other people. And then at the end of this passage there are three verses, which I literally think are the most powerful verses in the entire Bible when it comes to hearing God's voice. Paul says, we know in part, we see in part, we understand in part. We see through a glass darkly. Again, he's talking about communication from God, communication from God through us. And he's talking about the subjective sense of that we don't know everything, we don't see everything. And so often, we're looking through a glass darkly. Quite literally, before I did this video, I took a little microfiber cloth and cleaned my glasses because I have a tendency to touch them and they accumulate grime, and I'll often go around with like a fingerprint or something on my glasses, and I'm seeing through a lens darkly, seeing through maybe like a windscreen on a car darkly. You know, if you have to drive and the sun is glaring at you and there's snow or dirt or rain even on your windscreen and then condensation on the inside, it is dangerous. Really is. Now, a lot of people spiritually are driving in that way. My contention, my proposition to you is that we can learn. I don't think we may, you can disagree, but I don't think we're ever going to live in this earth in a place where it's 100% signal and 0% noise, where we hear from God at 100% level and our flesh, Satan, our fears, whatever, have nothing to do with that. But I think we can massively improve this journey. And today I want to give you 3 quick keys that will really help you do that. The first key is simply this: spend a lot of time with God. Now, this is not my first rodeo. I've been in the ministry for, I started in the ministry in about 1987 full time. So that will be 40 years in about 2 years' time. So been around the block a few bit, and I love Christians. I'm not condemning anybody. I'm a pastor. I pastor pastors. On and on and on I can go, as you know. But my point is this: most Christians actually don't spend any time with God. They pretend they do, they feel guilty because they don't, and they really do intend to start tomorrow. You know, that day tomorrow when you're not busy, that day tomorrow when everything's going to be perfect, the sun will shine, the birds will sing, nobody will steal your time, and we can kind of live in this fantasy that we're going to do something, but we never quite do it. And one of the greatest keys I've learned to hearing from God, key number one, would be this: learn to sit quietly with God. And I know this will cut across a lot of Christian advice, but don't have any music on, don't blow a shofar, don't meditate this, just shut up. Don't even pray in tongues, just be quiet and learn to connect with you and God. And I find when I do that, again, good news and bad news in this, if you really be quiet with the Lord, you'll begin to discern what truly is God and what is all of your noise or whatever. And the more we shut up, the more we hear the still, small voice. And so often, I think, frankly, I used to have a quiet time with the Lord. We say a quiet time back in the 80s we talk about. It looked more like Times Square. I was standing on one leg, turning around, music going on, a candle, cool lights, and confessing this, proclaiming that, praying for Israel and the president, and doing the okey cokey, spinning 10 different spiritual plays. Just shut up, be with God, and be quiet. Okay, that will lead you into the second key, where this sounds difficult, but it's actually quite easy to get to a place where we're good at this. What we need to do is practice knowing the difference between the voice of the Lord and the voice of our own mind or our own soul or Satan or our thoughts or whatever. But generally, our problem actually isn't so much Satan. It's our own carnal, rational mind. It's our own emotions. It's our soul speaking to us. So the more we practice being with the Lord and listening to Him and not allowing the chatter of the world around us. Here's the principle in a way. The time to practice that is not in a church, is not trying to do ministry on somebody else, because there's far more noise. There's the additional pressure of what other people think. There's your pride trying to look good. There's your fear of failure, which is your pride trying not to look bad. There's a whole bunch of other things going on there. So I would say practice something 100 times in your chamber alone, and then your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. I will often play with musicians and I can tell immediately they haven't really practiced a song, and they're kind of looking at chord sheets and they're trying to learn they're trying to wing it. They're trying to learn a song live or even learn the instrument live. And I know because I've done that myself, but I've learned over much experience to get on my own and play a song 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times through. I learn if I do that, I'll notice the parts where I am missing the chord or the chord change or something doesn't sound right, or if I play with a metronome where I am getting faster or slower. And my point is, do about 95% of your hearing from God alone, and then 5% in public, and God will dazzle you and others with the 5%. Boom. Last key is really what I spoke about yesterday as well. Don't seek God for information. Don't seek God for prophecy. Don't seek God for direction. Seek God. Don't seek guidance. Seek the guide. Don't seek prophecy. Seek the God who speaks. See the personhood. Hearing from God is a relational thing, not a technique thing. And I'll be honest, I love technique. I love YouTube and AI, and I'll ask it questions. How do I do this? Give me 5 steps to do that, 7 principles for this. But the problem is you've got to take all those steps into the secret place and relationally talk to the Lord. First thing I say to the Lord every day is, I love you. And then I listen, and He says, I love you too, my son. And then we're in that really simple love communication, including repentance or sin or attitudes or whatever, the same voice that tells me He loves me, and I believe that, it increases, and then I grow into that place where He can tell me specific, accurate, demonstrable things about my day. So I would say practice, 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 but practice in your room alone, not in somebody else's platform. Yeah, I don't let people, if I could use that musical instrument analogy, if I'm going to put a musician on the stage in my church, I'm not looking for perfection. I mean, I could play a bum note once in a blue moon, but I'm looking for somebody who's practiced a lot. Somebody who said, I've done this, played this song 10 times on my own, and I know I can do it. I'm not hoping I can do it, I know I can do it. Yeah, and in the same way, I don't give people a microphone and let them speak into accurate, specific things where people will be hurt or offended, or there are consequences if they get it wrong, until they've practiced a lot. Show me privately that you've done this privately, and I will give you a platform to do it publicly. Sila. So encourage you to try out those 3 keys and keep growing in this. Become a lifelong learner when it comes to hearing from the Lord. Hey, it is Thanksgiving here in the US tomorrow, and happy Thanksgiving wherever you're at in the world, even if you're not an American. I'm glad to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. Proud to be an American. As I mentioned in a couple of videos, I'll be in Binghamton, New York this coming Sunday, 10:30 a.m., Triumphant Life Church. On Monday, Leah and I are flying out of Newark, New Jersey to Tel Aviv and then on to Jerusalem. So this time next week in Jerusalem, we're going to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu and have a gathering with a whole bunch of pastors, leaders, and influencers in Israel. So keep us in your prayers. We would appreciate that, and bless you. Thanks for watching. Again, sign up for our email, check out my website, subscribe, drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.